the fetch works. So, well, no, that's not working. That's not good. Oh, that's okay. Let's do this. All right, let's do it here. Because we haven't done our iPad one, it's trying to run it on an iPad. So we're just going to run it on the simulator here. So here's our little simulator. Okay, we're not actually going to be looking at anything UI. So it's doing this fetch, and here's the information right here. Let's go ahead and make it big so you can see it. And you can see that it's a dictionary. This is kind of this little format that is used to log in as dictionaries. And inside this dictionary, there's a key right off the bat called photos, which is another dictionary. And inside that dictionary, there's which page this is, 98,000 pages available, okay, 250 items each. So a lot going on in Flickr. And there's another key here, and the value of this key is an array, and this is an array of the photos, each one of which is a dictionary. And you can see a lot of stuff in these dictionaries, including the title of the photo right here. And there's also this one right here, a description, which is a description of the photo. And this one's actually another dictionary, and inside it is a key that's the actual description. This one has blank description. So this one's going to be a little more tricky to get this value out of this photo. But anyway, we're going to have to pull this stuff out of this dictionary in this kind of odd format. So let's just do that. So we can get the photos out of there by saying, how about this? Property list results, value for key path, and then in Flickr Fetcher, I have a nice little # define here to get those photos, that photo array, out of the photos dictionary at the beginning. Okay, but this has a dot in it, which is interesting. A dot means this key inside this key, the dictionary for this key. So it's kind of like following dictionaries inside dictionaries. Okay, that's what this thing does. So I'm going to use this, but to make it work, we have to use this value for key path method instead of using object for key, right, which would be a normal dictionary method. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do with the too many square bracket tissue. Okay. So that is going to pull those photos out of there. So now I have the photos as an array of dictionaries, and I'm just going to set my model to be that. Okay? So that wasn't too hard. Question?
What's the difference between null and nil?
What's the difference between null and nil? Okay, that's a good question. Nil means an object pointer is 0, right? A pointer that doesn't point to anything is nil. Null means a C pointer points to nothing. And in that case, that was an ampersand error. In other words, by reference NS error. So this is not an NS error pointer. It was an NS error ***. Okay? You understand that? This thing right here, if I wanted to get the error, I would have said @error like this, and I would have had NS error *error. Okay, so this is this would be equals nil, but an ampersand error is a pointer to this pointer, so that would be null. Okay, all right, we'll aside there. That was a good aside. Okay, so one thing that's bad about this guy right here, what's that going to do that's bad? Block the main queue. So we're not going to fix that because we're going to be time constrained here, but I'm going to put a warning in. So there's a nice little # warning thing you can put in that lets you add your own warnings. Oops. It really blocks the main thread that is used by the main queue. But this is basically creating a warning, and this will remind you to go back and fix this before you submit it, for example, because you don't want to have any warnings in your code. Okay? So we're not going to do this right now because we want to get on to some of these other things. And we're going to run over time as it is. But I'll do this at the end, and then I'll post it. OK? But the good news is we have set our model back in our superclass right here. OK? So we have all the information we need now to use our table views data source to load up that table. All right? So first, how many sections in this table view? Well, we're going to put it all in one big section. We're not going to have like countries or anything else, any subsections. So we're all going to have one big section, so we can get rid of this nice warning, actually. And of course, if I deleted this whole method, that would be the same because the default is 1. And here, number of rows in section. Well, again, I only have one section, so I can just return self.photos count. That's the number of photos I have. Okay? Now, if I had multiple sections, I would need to return a different number. But here I only have one section, so I can do that. And then here's our table self-row and index path. Here it's saying, what did you put in the storyboard for the identifier for the cell? Well, what did we put? Let's go look. Back here, we'll inspect this cell. The attribute inspector, reuse identifier. We didn't put anything. Let's try Flickr photo cell. That would be a good name for that. Okay, and so now here in our code, we want to make sure we put the same thing here. And that's how it's going to know to duplicate this particular prototype cell over and over. We could also, by the way, set this to maybe be subtitle, kind of set this thing up the way that we want, this cell, so that it gets copied, the right thing we want gets copied. Okay, so we have this cell now, okay, from the DQ reusable cell with identifier there. And then we need to configure the cell. Well, to configure the cell, we need the information from our model. So we need to get the dictionary for the photo that's at this index path. In other words, this row and section. And again, we only have one big section, so we really just need the photo that's at that place in the array. So that would be photos sub index path dot row. Okay? I would use index path dot section if I had multiple sections like you're going to have. So now I have the photo. I have that dictionary that you saw. There were a bunch of dictionaries there. So let's configure the cell. Let's set the text label of that one to be, let's say, the photos. And I'm going to use the same value for key path here in case any of these things have, we need Flickr, have dots in them. Import, okay, yes, import Flickr Fetcher. Flickr Fetcher also has all of these things for the keys inside of a photo, the keys inside of a place, which you'll need, some keys that are in kind of all different things. And so let's go here. We want Flickr photo title. Yeah, okay. Like that. All right. And then we'll set the detail text label. That's the little subtitle. We'll do photo value for key path. We need that because this one has dots. And that is the description. And the description one, as you'll see here, is description.underbar content. And if you remember, if you go back and look at the Flickr thing, you'll see why this is description.underbar content. Okay? So we got that. We return the cell. And that's really all we need to do. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, we got that warning there, block main thread. And this is blocking the main thread right now as it goes out to Flickr to fetch. But it did get it. So here's a whole bunch of photos. Some of them have subtitles, some not. Okay, that's cool, cool. We can click on them. But it'd be sure nice if we could see these photos when we click on them, right? But of course, we need to do a segue to do that. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go back to here. And you know, this segue is really easy to do. Let's go back to our iPhone storyboard here. What we need, though, is what we want is from Imaginarium, we want that nice image view controller. Okay, well, watch how we can get that. I'm going to go back to my Imaginarium. Okay, here's Imaginarium. First of all, I'm going to take the image view controller code and just drag it from one project to another. That's perfectly legal. I'm going to copy it in this case. You could link them, but be careful if you do that. But even more amazingly, I'm actually going to go to the storyboard and grab this scene right here, the scene that has all this scroll view and all that stuff in it, and copy it and go over to this storyboard in Shutterbug and paste it. Okay, it did do it. It's just a question of finding it. Put it over on the side here. There it is. Okay, so now I have this thing here. And all of the links that were in here, since they're all by name, all will still work as long as I have this particular class, which is image view controller. Right? It even still sets the thing here to be an image view controller. If I go look at all these things, they're still linked up. Sorry for the scrolling here. But see, you can see the activity indicator, it's all linked up because it's all being done by name. Okay? So we have this nice thing. So let's segue to it. We're just going to control drag. We got this cell right here. Sorry. This cell. And we're just going to control drag from it to here. We're going to put this in a navigation controller. So we'll push. Okay? Here's our thing. We need a nice name for our segue here. We'll call this display photo. Oops. Display photo. We could call it, again, anything we want. Let's put this stuff all in a navigation controller. Embed in navigation controller. So we have a nice UI here. Really, with almost no work for us to develop. While we're here, let's go ahead and call this one Shutterbug. We will set the title of this one based on the title of the photo. So all we need to do to make a segue work is what? Prepare for segue. So let's go back and do prepare for segue. It's actually commented out down here. Come back in. And the only trick we need to know here is that we need to get the index path from this sender, which is the table view cell that was clicked on. So let's do that. NS index path equals self.tableview. Remember, all table view controllers have this table view property that you can use to get this stuff. And I want index path for cell sender. Okay, so now I have this index path. If I want to be really safe, I could say if index path. That way, if somehow this sender, I could really even be super safe and say if sender is kind of class UI table view cell class. Okay. Some people really want to be careful about using ID, and they want to use introspection, and I certainly appreciate why you want to do that. Sometimes it's better to let your app just crash. When you do that, you find the bugs faster sometimes. Or in some of these ifs, you want to put else log an internal error or something like that. But anyway, we got this index path. It's not nil, so we were able to find this table view cell in this table view, so that's good. We're off to a good start. Let's see if this is the display photo. Segue. Okay. If it is, let's see if the segue destination view controller is kind of class, that image view controller class, because that's what we need it to be, image view controller. Right? So if it is an image view controller class, then we are good to go. Kind of got everything we need at this point. And I'm actually going to create a little helper method here, which is prepare image view controller to display photo and as dictionary photo. So this is just going to be something, a little helper thing that does the actual preparation. And this is really easy. ivc.imageURL, remember that from Imaginarium, right? That's what the image view controller's public API is. We need to get the URL for this photo, and it turns out Flickr Fetcher can help us with that too. Flickr Fetcher, there's a thing called URL for photo. Okay, and we just give it the photo dictionary, and it uses stuff inside the dictionary to get the URL. And we can pick what format we want, and I'm going to pick the large format. The choices there are large, original, or square. Square is like a thumbnail, really small, so only use that if you need a thumbnail, which you don't need for this assignment. And original is high res, and then large, it's kind of a good size, like 1024 by 768 or something like that. And then I told you also I'm going to set the title of this thing to be the photo value for key path, Flickr photo title. Okay, so I'm going to set the title of that image view controller as well. Okay, so now let's call this little helper thing, prepare image view controller. The image view controller is segue.destinationViewController to display photo. The photo is self.photos index path.row. Everyone understand that? Okay, I'm just reaching into my model here at this index path that was the sender. All right, so let's see if this works. Again, this is blocking our main thread here, which is the bummer. You know how to not do that. So here we have, now we're in a UI navigation controller. That's cool, we got that. Let's go ahead and click on something that hopefully is innocuous. Here it is. And we can zoom in and out. That's cool, all right. We could go back and click on something else. Another Rome picture, that is Coliseum, okay.